We have never said no action, but what we have said is alignment first and then inspired action. And it's sort of what we were talking about as we began here today. If you are out of balance and you become general in your statements, you will soften resistance and allow well-being to move close enough that you can feel it, which is what inspiration is. When you are in that mode where you're being inspired, you're going to be inspired to behavior and action that are so powerful that nothing could stop you from wanting to perform the action. So the distinction is, am I acting outside the vortex or from inside the vortex? Am I going with the flow of the eternal stream? Am I true to the vibrational groundwork that I have laid as I've lived not only in this life but many lifetimes before? Or am I bucking my own current? That's really the question, because so many people work so hard because they are having to buck their own current. When you are in alignment with who you are, there's no current to buck. And then the road doesn't feel bumpy, it feels smooth. Now, you're right about what happens to a lot of people. We've said that if you've lived a big life and therefore you've had a lot of experiences, and therefore you know a lot of what you don't want, and therefore you know a lot of what you do want, you've created a momentum that now it's more important than ever for you to stay in vibrational alignment with the momentum that you've created. Otherwise it will beat you up, you see. And so it's all about balance. When you set energy in motion, you got to keep up with it. Many people have enough split energy going on, and then they try to compensate for the split energy through action, and then it's hard work. For everything that you want, there's an equivalent, precise equivalent absence of it. So you get that. We also want to say to you that when you have created and identified and found resonance with the vortex, not being in alignment feels equally awful to the pleasure that the alignment with it feels. And that's why you interpret it as saying there must be some evil source, there must be some opposite source of good, because it feels so bad, it must be big. But it's only as big as the absence of the good that you've carved out. Every thought has the right and the power to exist, and law of attraction will respond equally to it. So if you conjure in whatever way a thought and keep it active within you, law of attraction will support that thought. And so unwanted things can become bigger and bigger and bigger, just like wanted things. But the emotional response you have about it is always, every single time, no exception, and this is the truth that you seek, proportionate to the alignment that you have created. In other words, through life, as you become this, and the reason that we describe this vortex as if it is this tangible thing, and we get why it's hard to do that, and whether you do it or not doesn't matter. We just want you to understand that you have created a beingness that the larger part of you is, and to the degree that you align with it, resonate with it, allow yourself to be it, you will feel the fullness of it. And anything less than the fullness of it is going to feel like something that is discordant enough that if it gets big enough, we understand why people want to assign a source to it, because it feels really, really big. But every emotion you feel is about the relationship between who you have become and who you are letting yourself be in relationship to that only. Now, that has to help you to understand that through all that you've been living, you have become, you are love, you are certainty, you are knowledge, you are power, you are wisdom, you are clarity, you are those things. And when you allow it, oh, you've come home, it feels so good, this is who I am. And when you don't allow it, it feels like somebody other than you must be responsible for the not allowing of something that you want more than life itself, because it is life. So your question was, all right, Abraham, I accept that I create my own reality. And I accept that there is a force, let's call it the vortex, let's call it God, or let's not call it God, you say, let's call it whatever it is. But I accept that there is this force of goodness which I can choose, but is there not a force of badness that I could choose? Is that what you're saying? I'm deliberate creator. Is there a good force or a bad force that I could participate in? And we say there is the expansion of who you are and the pinching off of it, and that's it. That is it. We'll tell you why we know this, and maybe it will resonate deeply enough with you that you'll get it once and for all, and maybe you have to work on it for a little while. This vortex that is hard to get your thoughts wrapped around because you can't see it or hear it. It's not this tangible thing. You can feel it. This vortex is the holder of the best that you have carved out, you and everyone else, from the beginning of exploring contrast. And it is so powerful and so dominant that that which is source energy resides in the energy of that goodness. It is so profound and so big, they're not adequate words to describe it or define it. But you feel it from time to time. And the absence of it is gut-wrenching. The world is the worst that it's ever been, and it's also the best that it's ever been, and you get to choose which part of it you play in.
Okay, that's good.
Because it's the most intense it's ever been.
Yes.
It's the most it's ever been. In other words, when you go to a buffet that only has 10 items, there's a little bit you like and a little bit you don't like. When there are 10,000 items at the buffet, there's a whole lot you like and a whole lot you don't like.
Yes.
Don't let it freak you out. Become a definitive person.
Right.
But what's happening is, if you haven't been practicing selecting from the buffet, and you show up at a buffet where there's 10 million things you like and 10 million things you don't like, you get overwhelmed. And that's what's happening to a lot of people.